People from all over the country relate to Suzie Humphreys. They go to see and hear her, hoping to be entertained, and they are. But what they're not expecting is the lasting impressions of Suzie Humphreys' insights. Get ready to laugh, live, and learn with Suzie Humphreys.
I got to give you my credentials before I begin, because I know, we believe in credentials, and if you don't have the right credentials, people don't take you seriously. And they brought me in here to speak with some authority. So here are my credentials. I was a D- student at Alamo Heights High School in San Antonio, Texas. I failed PE 4 years. Took Algebra 1, failed it, took it over, passed it with a D-. Took Algebra 2, failed it, took it over, passed it with a D-. My typing and shorthand teacher, Mrs. Reed, told me, and I swear this is the truth, she said, never disgrace my name by applying for a secretarial job. And I was a senior taking sophomore geometry. Whether or not I graduated depended upon that geometry grade. And I'm talking the 50s here. You did not graduate in the 50s. We didn't think I was going to graduate. So I went to my geometry teacher, a man named Mr. Long. It was his first year as a high school teacher. I said, Mr. Long, can you tell me what I'm going to make in this class? He said, let me see if I understand this. In order for you to graduate, you've got to pass my course. Is that true? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I am going to pass you, but I want to tell you why. If I fail you, I will have you again next year. So I found out I was going to graduate, and that was great, except something better than graduating happened my senior year. And I got to explain it to you. I'm a redhead. Well, I used to be a real redhead. Now I dye my hair my natural color. And well, when you were a redhead growing up in the 50s, it was awful. Because can you see the hair on my arms? You can't see it, can you? Can't see it on my eyebrows and eyelashes either. We didn't use a lot of Maybelline, mascara, stuff like that back in the 50s. So what you had back then was this red face, ruddy complexion, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and 2 blue holes. And what that all boiled down to was that for 12 years, nobody loved me. Till my senior year. And he came from Indiana. Apparently all the girls in Indiana looked like this. And he wanted to go steady. And I said yes, and it was great. Because I got to wear his letter jacket and go to the prom. And then after we graduated, he wanted to get married. I figured it was probably my last shot at it, so I said yes. We had a great big church wedding. We got a lot of china, crystal, and silver, and we moved with a 52 Chevrolet, a U-Haul trailer, and $48 to Hereford, Texas. In case you're wondering what kind of town Hereford is, I want you to think in your minds what kind of town would be named Hereford. We headed north out of San Antonio pulling that U-Haul trailer. We traveled all night long. 6 o'clock in the morning, we pull into our little apartment on Highway 25. Hadn't you always wanted to live on a highway? We fell across the bed exhausted. 2 hours later, there's a knock at the door. It's my husband's boss telling him he's got 2 hours to get ready. They are sending him out of town for 3 to 6 weeks. That's the only soul I knew in Hereford, Texas. When his car pulled out of that driveway, I cried for 3 solid days. There's something therapeutic about crying for 3 solid days because you get sick of it. At the end of the 3rd day, I washed my face and dried my eyes. I said, Suzanne, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to get myself a job. So I got in that 52 Chevrolet, went down Main Street, went in all the big stores like C.R. Anthony. I told people I was looking for work. Somebody threw me a trick question. She said, what do you do? I said, I'm a secretary. Well, lo and behold, the best job for a secretary was open. Secretary to the general manager of the Deaf Smith County Rural Electrification Co-op. I put on my pink dress with the Peter Pan collar and the white lace down the front, and the pink gloves and the pink shoes and the straw bag with the pink sombreros on it. This is the 50s. I went out and I met a man by the name of Mr. Leo Forrest. He's the general manager. He gave me an application and I filled it out. Then he called me into his office. He said, well, I see here you type. I said, yes, sir. He said, what speed? I said, 120 words a minute. He said, do you take shorthand? I went, oh, yeah. He said, what speed? I said, same speed, 120 words a minute. He said, that's very interesting. What would you say if I had my secretary give you a pad and pencil and had you take a letter? You know, I taught shorthand for 7 years. I said, I'd say goodbye. He said, why is that? And I said, just knowing you taught it, I'd be so nervous I couldn't write, dear sir. He said, we don't use shorthand here. We use a dictating machine. Do you know how to operate a dictating machine? I asked him the question that stood me in good stead all my life. I said, what kind is it? He told me, I told him I knew how to operate the other kind. Then he said something wonderful. He said, you want this job? I said, yes, sir. He said, why? I said, food. He said, well, you got the job. I said, I got the job? I got the job? He said, yeah, stay today, meet everybody, look at the files, come back tomorrow morning ready to go to work. That's what I did. Stayed that day and looked at the files and came back the next morning. And I loved working. I caught fire to working. I'd sign up for everything. That time, Mr. Forrest said, we need somebody to get the newsletter out to the subscribers on the line. I said, I can do that. He said, have you ever done a newsletter? I went, oh, yeah. Well, how hard is it to do a newsletter? All you got to go do is get a copy of the old form, sit there long enough, something will come to you. Doesn't it always come to you if you sit there long enough? Then he said, we need somebody to produce the Miss Deaf Smith County Rural Electrification Beauty Pageant. It's going to be on TV in Amarillo, Texas. I said, I can do that. He said, have you ever done a beauty pageant? I went, oh, yeah. Well, you've seen those things on TV. So while my career was going great, my marriage, sad to say, was in trouble because he came home. It was a horrible time. It was the worst time I ever knew in my life, but I'm going to tell you the good that came from it. You know the way you can look back in your life, all those disappointments you didn't think you could handle, find the good in it. All those times you didn't think you'd get over, find the good in it. The good from that rotten marriage in Hereford, Texas was that my whole philosophy about confidence was born. Because after that marriage, I concluded that confidence, real confidence, doesn't have so much to thinking you can do something as it comes from knowing you can get out of it. That's confidence. Knowing you're not trapped. Knowing there's always a window open. Because after all, it's not life that gets me. It's my reaction to it. It's not the problem, it's the problem. It's my thinking about the problem. So when my divorce was final, I was going on back to San Antonio. And Mr. Forrest gave me a going away party, little Mr. Forrest. I smooth-talked my way past that old man, pulled the wool over his eyes. He got up in front of the board of directors and the employees, and he called me up front, had a little gift for me, put his arm around me, looked out at the audience and said, I remember meeting her almost a year ago and thinking to myself, I've never met a bigger liar.